True crime enthusiasts, welcome to Break the Case. We have a very special segment planned for tonight. Tonight's segment is going to be with 6 of Caleb Harris's family members. Caleb Harris, 21-year-old young man studying at Texas A&M in Corpus Christi, and back on March 4th, he went missing. It's a long time ago, true crimers. I know you know it well from all the cases that we watch. And I'm so thrilled to have his family here today. You're going to meet the whole lot. You're going to meet his mother, Becky. You've met Randy before. You're going to see Andy, his beautiful, beautiful sister. You're going to meet Jeff, his uncle. And you're going to meet Ted, his papa, and Janet, his nana. So without further ado, let's go ahead and meet Caleb's family and start breaking down this case. Hello, Caleb Harris's family. How are you?
We're good.
We are so glad to have you here. I just introduced you all to the audience, but of course, I'd like you each to put your face to the name I gave. So Randy, if we could start with you and move across the bottom row and go up to the top row, that would be great.
Okay. I'm Randy Harris.
I'm Andy Harris. And I'm Caleb's mom, Becky Harris.
I'm Pop.
I'm Nana. I'm Janet.
And I'm Jeff, Caleb's uncle.
You know, I'm just so grateful that you could all gather here tonight. I know this is probably the first time you've been able to come together online, if you will, as a family to reach out to the community and ask for Caleb's name, Caleb's image, Caleb's story to be told. As I spoke to you earlier, I think it's so important to make Caleb really come alive in this segment and to show the audience what he meant to you all, what he was like. So I'm going to ask kind of a series of questions, and I'd really like to start with you, Becky. I have a question for you. When you first found out you were going to have a baby and found out it was going to be a baby boy, what was that moment like? Where were you at, and how did you tell Randy?
Well, Randy was with me, and whenever we found out for sure that we were having a baby and that he was going to be a boy, and in the doctor's office, and it was very exciting. We had worked hard. We had been trying to get pregnant for a while, and so it was a joy to know that he was coming.
That's great. Nana, I want to go to you next with this one. So now you find out you're going to be a grandma. Was this your first grandchild?
Yes.
Wow. And so what was that like for you? Were you helping out with the nursery? Were you all of you? Tell us about it.
Well, that's kind of my background anyway. And so, Becky and I got our heads together and, planned his nursery, and it was ready to go whenever that sweet boy got here. And I'll just never forget the day he was born. It was a fall, crisp day, and it was beautiful outside, and it just made everything wonderful.
What was his date of birth?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead, Nana.
Well, September 24th, 2002.
September 24th. So I can just picture that day as you describe it. So the next question is for you, Papa. Tell us about after Caleb was born, kind of your first memory of him in terms of running, playing, crawling. Kind of was he jabbery? What was he like as a baby?
Yeah, well, Caleb didn't talk for a while. He was kind of silent. He listened, He knew every word that you said, but it took him a while to speak. So anyway, we lived out of town a little ways, but when we went visiting, it was always fun to play with. You know, we lived in a 2-story house, and I'd go upstairs to play with him. And the funniest part about it, when he was a couple of years old, you know, we were on the way back from Grapevine where they lived, and we were on the way back, and I get this phone call, and Becky said, Caleb says he can't take a nap. He said, when you were here, he said, Pop gave me some Dr. Pepper, and I can't go to sleep with the caffeine's keeping me awake.
Oh, that's funny. So he learned an important lesson about caffeine and Dr. Pepper, I guess, at a very young age.
I told him, I said, now don't tell your mom you got me a coffee. He might keep you awake. And so he used every bit of that.
Oh, that's funny. Jeff, what about you? What's one of your first memories about Caleb?
Just, you know, I guess never kid knew to haven't really had kids like that in the family, and just seeing him and holding him, and you know, seeing extension of all, and our family is just a blessing. Immediately, it was just such a great feeling. I've got pictures from him when he was a baby, when he was a year old, and we went out on the lake for the first time, on my old boat we have and still have, and we've been out every summer since, and many, dozens and dozens and dozens of trips to the lake with Caleb, and I've been blessed with all the pictures, and I look at the pictures every day, and he's such a blessing to our family, and the memory started, my sister called me, when he was born. I remember that day. I was leaving work. I remember that conversation, and from that day to today, he's just a blessing to each and every one of us. Just being around him. He's respectful. He's such a gentleman. He thinks of others first. He hugs you. He shakes your hand when he comes into a room. It's not about him. It's about whoever he's talking to. Can't say a bad thing about him. Just a blessing to everyone every life that he's touched.
That is such a great synopsis, I think. You just so eloquently put it together. It was really nice. Now, Andy, I know obviously you don't remember Caleb as a baby because you came after, and we heard discussed by Papa that he didn't talk very much when he was little. But I want to hear your impression, or what you remember. You would have been much older, and of course, by then Caleb would have been older. What's your first impression of your big brother? What was your relationship like with him?
Well, when we were little, I want to say, I don't know exactly the age. He would make up these games outside with his friends, and I was always trying to get in on it, always trying to figure out what they were doing. It was just really interesting to watch him.
So very interactive. Was Caleb the sort that always had a lot of friends, or was he more of a loner? Randy, can you answer that for us?
He always had friends. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
A lot of friends around. So when it came to your house, tell us what that was like, just having a house full of, I'm picturing all these boys and buddies and Andy's buddies. Is that what the house kind of was like, Becky?
Yes, there would be a lot of boys, so all stinky from middle school on, come in the house, and they all like to make some contraptions and play in the backyard. You never knew what they were going to do from the time that they were pretty young. And he had a lot of the same friends until he was a senior in high school. And after a football game, those same boys would come through and be a part of Caleb's life. And so our house was always full of adventurous boys running around and having a good time. A lot of laughter.
You camp out in your house.
They did. They literally would. There's some mornings we'd wake up and there'd be 6 or 7 kids there.
Wow, it sounds like just such a house full of life and stuff going on, and that sounds great. So tell me, I'm going to take you up a few years. I saw this adorable picture of Caleb in Boy Scouts. I want to hear all about that. Was he like a big Boy Scouter or Cub Scouter? Did he move on to try to get his Eagle badge, or was it kind of just a flash in the pan, gave it a shot and didn't like it?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we did the Cub Scouts, and that's the picture you saw. And we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. We built a little derby car and had the derby races, and then we did some camp outs up in the hill country, and that was a lot of fun. But that was didn't pursue that any further than that.
Yeah, I just loved seeing that picture. It was really cute. So once he got into, say, junior high, that sort of age, I guess his main hobbies became fishing and playing the guitar, would you say? Becky?
Especially with guitar. I mean, he loved to bike. Yeah, and skate. I mean, I can't tell you how many skateboards we probably bought, even when he was really young. Pop and I went to a really cool skate shop and got him his first index board. And our neighbor was not a pro, but just skated a lot. And so he was always interested in skating, and then went on into the mountain biking, BMX type biking, bicycling. And so there's some pictures out there, of him even as far back as junior high, I guess, getting out and doing bike trails, loved bike trails. And then that's when he started having a passion more for guitars, and he had piano lessons how old was he?
He was 8.
About 8 years old, taking piano lessons.
Wow, just sounds so well-rounded. I think as I listen to this, it's all the things I think that I would have taught my boys to do that I didn't. How to play the piano and fish and do all these things. It's really seems like such a wonderful, wonderful upbringing. What about girls? Did he have a lot of girlfriends? Andy, I'll let you answer this one.
Oh, he had maybe a couple, but he definitely cares about his fishing. And earlier in the years, he loved his Nerf guns and bikes, paint guns. Yeah.
That's so funny. So what about into high school? Wasn't he a pretty big high school athlete? And if so, what were his sports, Becky?
He enjoyed the team sports, and he liked baseball, and he liked football, and he did try his hand at golf as well. And so it was more than playing the game itself. It was more about the team, and he loved to support his team and being a part of it.
Now I heard rumors that he liked to cook, or at least could cook. Nana, were you behind the cooking?
No, I'm not going to say I was behind him cooking, but he did call me. I think it was that first year, or maybe it was last year. He called me ahead of time. He had missed his mom's birthday, who was during the week, and he called me and asked me if he could come over and cook dinner for everybody and surprise his mom. And so he sent me a list of ingredients that was unbelievable. And so we got the ingredients, and he came over and we cooked together a dinner for his mom's birthday.
Wow. What did he make? I'm dying to know. What did he
Ratatouille.
Some of it was rather
Ratatouille. Was it ratatouille?
Yeah, ratatouille.
Ratatouille,
It
I
was
think.
very well put together. It was plated well, like you would get in a restaurant, and it was, well, of course, with my mom behind him, that it was all his idea and what he wanted to do.
Ratatouille, of all things. Like, I'm 50 years old and I've never made ratatouille.
Well, I can tell you too, Nana and Pop are really good about, with both of them, entering cookies and pastries and things like that in the county fair. And they won several blue and red ribbons in the county fair, cooking cookies and different types of pastries for showing at the fair. So yeah, he got a triple ribbon one. Yep.
Wow, that's That is pretty cool. I mean, it just paints such a picture of somebody that was so well-rounded. Nana, can you tell us a little bit about Caleb's personality?
Well, he was pretty even keeled. You didn't see him get real angry. I mean, he would get angry at times, but he didn't get angry very often, and he didn't get down very often. He was pretty even in his temperament. He was very easy to be around. Sometimes we could have disagreements, but we could talk about them logically and without a lot of emotion. So he was easy to talk to.
So you said initially, Papa, that he wasn't a big talker. Did he ever become a big talker, or is Caleb more of a quiet guy?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He became a big talker all at one time. He was quiet for the longest time, but once he started talking, it never quit. He just kept talking. So, and it went on and on. He was very well rounded. I mean, from a young boy all the way through. Him and I did go-karts together. We worked go-karts, a couple of different ones. I mean, even all the way through to, you know, even as, I think it was his first guitar, that he got. He came over to the house one day, and just him and I, and was talking, and he said, Mom said, I would like to get a guitar. And I said, really? I said, what are you thinking? And he's a researcher. I mean, even at a young age, he researches everything. Even all the way through, anytime he wants something, anytime he's looking for something, he researches it to where he knows everything about it. So he came over to the house, and this is like, I don't know, August, September. And he said, I like the guitar. I said, really? He said, let me show you. So he went upstairs on the computer, and he showed me this guitar that he wanted. And I said, really? I said, why do you want that? He said, it has instructions to play it. It's electric. It was like $279 or something like that. I said, do you want it for Christmas? He said, yeah. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and order it. If you keep a secret between now and Christmas, we'll order it now. When it comes in, I'll show it to you. And then at Christmas time, you have to be surprised that you got it. And the funniest part was, Christmas come in, and he opened it up and said, wow, he said, a brand new guitar. And he was just shocked. He kept it secret and was surprised at Christmas. That's Caleb.
That's a great story. I thought you were going to say it was going to be like the Dr. Pepper that he told us. But no, he learned. That is a cute story. Well, I think, hearing all these warm emotions, hearing the type of person he was, I think really comes out hearing these little details. And I love these little stories and anecdotes. But I want to talk about what it was like on March 4th and what it's been like now that months have gone by. Nana, I want to start with you.
Well, Becky and I had been together at lunch that day. A friend of ours came into town. Their daughter came into town. And we met her in downtown San Antonio, and we had lunch together. And we came home, and Becky went on her way, and I went on mine here at the house. And I got a phone call from Becky saying that Caleb was missing. And I thought, missing from what? And so that's how I found out, that Monday afternoon. And we were, of course, just devastated. But I really thought that, this will just be, a few days and they'll find me. But the boys had already done so much of, looking and searching on their boys, meaning his roommates, looking for him, that they were without a doubt knew that something had gone on and he was missing by the time we all found out.
Andy, how did your parents tell you, and what were your initial thoughts?
I was actually out with my mom. We were getting my passport done. And just as we stepped out, we got a call from one of his roommates saying, like, hey, Caleb been missing since 2 o'clock this morning, and what we know is more now. But and I was just thinking, oh, that's so weird. That's not like him. That I never would have thought that it would go on for as long as it did, or I thought that it was going to be resolved in a couple of hours. We had to drive separately home. So,
Well, you know, it's a perfect segue into, I think, a very important point for everybody that's listening, everyone that will be tuning in. And that is that a lot of times when people hear these stories, you know, about a young 21-year-old young man and the hour of the night, right? He was last seen at around 3 in the morning. There were a couple of Snapchats, one to you, Andy, and then one to a friend in Colorado. And then his phone went completely dead at about 3 in the morning. Randy, I know you know the exact moment that
258.
2:58. So a lot of people wonder, and again, I know in talking today to Police Chief Green, Assistant Chief Green, that you have to think about every scenario, right? You can't just have tunnel vision when somebody disappears. You have to look at all of the possibilities. And one of those possibilities that had to be considered was that he just sort of walked away, if you will, from his life for whatever reason. And we had such a great conversation earlier today with Nana and with Randy about why that just isn't a possibility. And I think it's really important for our listeners to hear that from each of you, because you all knew him. You lived with him. You, you know, ate with him. You saw this little boy grow up into a man. So if I could please start with you, Mama Becky.
So I had just spent the weekend with Caleb just prior to him going missing, and so we had a great time together, and he was happy. He showed me all the places he loves to go. Just a really great time. We walked on the beach for a mother-son time together, and I left with my heart feeling full, and looking forward to seeing him again. And so I know that he was in a really good place. He was enjoying his classes. He even talked about enjoying a couple of his professors, and he had a great group of friends who loved to go to do things with, like fishing, that we all know. And but also he wouldn't have walked out if he were just to leave. He wouldn't leave his possessions behind, like his wallet and his keys and his shoes, that kind of thing.
Well, you know, actually, it was you, Papa, that said earlier that he's a researcher. He plans. He seems like I'm picturing him as being one of these people who, if, say, you were going to take a hiatus from your normal life and routine and family, it would have been planned. So to be barefoot, to be without keys, to be without a car, to be without money, to be without identification, that seems huge when you think about who Caleb Harris was as a person. Nana, what are your thoughts on this?
I think because that he had planned things so well, he had spent some time that evening talking to some friends that went to school other places, and they all had the spring break. We were a week away from spring break at the time. And so they had plans to meet up, during the week off. They were planning all to be here in Broncos. And so he made those plans. He had signed a lease on his apartment. one of his roommates, his family are friends of mine. I've known them for a long time. And so, there would be no reason that I could see. He also, there was some talk about his job in Alaska. Well, that came about because we have some extended I called them extended family, that work and live up there, and they had been here just previously and talked to Caleb about working up there for the summer. So it wasn't like he was going to some job that he didn't really know he was involved. He felt very comfortable to go and to be with this family, and because he had known them most of his life. And so, there were a lot of good things that were coming up in his life that just it wouldn't make sense for him to take off.
Randy?
Okay.
Anything else stick out to you? I mean, now
Yeah.
we know the fact that it was disorganized, that he's not disorganized, that he had plans, this great job in Alaska, which for an outdoorsman, there could be about nothing better than a summer in Alaska. He was going to be with friends, the planning of signing his lease, Becky talking to us about him being just in a good place. And I know we all know as parents, those of us that are parents, what that means. That's when your kiddo is just, things are going good and they're in a good place. Anything to add to that, Randy?
Sure. Even Sunday, he had been fishing with some friends. When he got back, he was texting me, funny fishing videos, and then going back to his planning. He was planning a particular place he was going to go fishing, and he was texting me pictures of the different lures that he's going to use the next day, because he was very focused. Not just throw a shrimp on a hook. He's very, very focused about different, baits that he would be using, things like that. So he was always texting me, stuff like that. So it goes back to that planning, planning his lunch the next day, planning where they're going to go fishing, planning, like I said, the apartment. He's already signed a lease with the new additional new roommate that he's known since fourth grade. So there's just so many things that, that we're looking forward to the future with him. And then, actually not having, like we've said, his keys, his wallet, his shoes, even the pants he was wearing, Mom had just bought and getting ready to go to Alaska. Those were some pants that we bought him specifically so he would have up there. So everything's looking forward to the future.
Andy, I want to hear from you about this just a little bit. Do you think there's any possible way that Caleb, that your brother who you grew up with, ever would walk out just all of a sudden on his life barefoot?
I think that when I heard somebody say that would even be a possibility, I just immediately was like, no, that is not who Caleb is. We have a very close-knit family. We are together a lot. He calls us almost every day. Would be unheard of for him to just walk off, and it's not even possible.
Andy, I want to leave it at that for this question because you say it so beautifully. It's not possible for the Caleb, and it's important, I think, for our audience to hear this because a lot of people, a reason a case can kind of go cold in media is because everybody just assumes, that maybe they left on their own accord or that there's nothing to be looking for in a sense. And it just couldn't be further from the truth in the case of Caleb Harris. Something happened to Caleb Harris. He didn't just get up at 3:00 in the morning with no shoes on and walk out on his life. And it's so important, I think, for everyone to hear that. And I appreciate each of you talking about that particular component. I do want to move forward to the investigation. First of all, last time we were together, I was with Randy and Tony, your family friend, regarding Caleb's timeline. And a lot has been made about the dog, the little 8-year-old white dog that was actually, I believe, a grandparent's dog. She could no longer handle it. And so these boys that lived in this apartment, including Caleb, kind of were all going to take care of it and all kind of have this dog. And at one point, it was believed that Caleb was last seen under a bridge, but that has since been dispelled. And so bring us back now to the actual timeline, Randy.
Well, that we know of, he was on the phone for about 71 minutes playing video games with a friend in Colorado till about 10:15. His roommate brought the new dog home. It came from his roommate's family. And they started playing with the dog probably around 10:15, 10:30. Just doing all kinds of stuff, getting excited about it, texting us pictures, hey, we're going to go get a life jacket for it tomorrow. That kind of stuff, so they can ride, can ride on the kayaks. They fast forward to about 1 o'clock. There's a Ring camera with a roommate and a future roommate, and they're outside playing with the dog. And then at 2:44, he snaps Andy a picture of the dog, walking the dog, orders his Uber Eats lunch for the next day, and then at 2:58 is when his phone went dead or turned off. And there's some anomalies out there of another chat that he sent to a friend after the phone went off, and then possible ping, but those both occurred after the phone was not working. So there's really no evidence that phone really did that, other than it's just an anomaly. It could have happened. He could have sent those a lot earlier, or the phone could have actually connected to a tower a lot earlier. It just happened to show up, within about a 12-minute time frame after his phone went dead.
Right, that makes sense. We talked about that earlier, where sometimes a phone call can be made, but when it's actually received on the other end is a little bit later. So that makes a lot of sense. So law enforcement, I know, believes that it truly went dead, if you will, his phone at 2:58, and that phone has never been found, and nor has any clothing, anything to have to do with Caleb. Correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, there was something you mentioned, and that was that Andy, at 2:44, he snapped you a picture of he and the new dog. Is that right?
Yes.
And we know that the dog was back at the apartment. In other words, that next day found back at the apartment. So obviously he would have had to take the dog back. What was in the background, if you recall, when he took a picture of himself and the dog?
It was a very short clip of just him walking the dog. It was late, so it was dark. The only thing in the video is just the dog and what looks like to be a sidewalk, or
It was the parking lot.
Yeah.
You could see stripes next to the cars.
I see. And so you saved that chat. You don't have it where your chat comes in and disappears necessarily.
yes.
So you were able to see the chat. Randy was able to see the chat,
Yeah.
and other law enforcement. So it was in the parking lot. So then he snaps that. And then that's when the last place we see him it's across the street, right? At a bridge. So he presumably then puts the dog up and then crosses the street and goes over this little bridge where then another snap occurs. Is that right?
If that's when it was. Again, that was at 3:03, but that would have been after the phone went dead. So we really don't have a good timeline on that particular chat.
Okay. But so that chat we don't have a timeline on. So the only chat that we know, or snap, that is good is the one to Andy. And then we know the precise time that the phone went dead.
Correct.
Okay.
And then he did order Uber Eats at 2:45.
Okay, 3 minutes after. But as far as the triangulation of the phone, do we know exactly where that phone is when it triangulated?
No, we don't. Originally, when they first started looking at everything, it was a good mile away down at a church area. So of course they did a lot of searches right there immediately. But then once some other authorities were able to triangulate additionally, it was at another location about a mile away still, but it was still close. You know, 2 fields, 2 roads further up north near kind of the hospital pain center area. But again, they never could determine that that's exactly where it triangulated to pinpoint it.
So as far as you know, even with the FBI being involved, they were never able to triangulate exactly where his phone was when it went out of service or when it called Uber Eats?
The best we would know is that when he called Uber Eats, he would have been at the apartment complex. The additional ping that they were chasing, that's the one that they were chasing down the street at the church and then over at near the hospital, the pain center over there. That's where they felt like there was a possibility of the phone being. So there was a pretty major search done in both of those areas, not only looking for Caleb, but looking for the phone.
Okay, but those, I guess, were done after it went dead. Is that what basically they believe now? It was after the phone went dead and a later ping that went out, that's sort of that phantom ping that we're talking about. So
Correct.
really, we don't know where the phone went dead at.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, that's a big piece of information that needs to be answered. In this case, something that I know you all have been frustrated with in my conversations with you all. You know, I feel your frustration. And I know in speaking with Assistant Chief Green today, how much he's frustrated. And that has been some of the subpoena and search warrant returns for information from the carriers or from the different apps and, you know, Apple and all these different subpoenas that went out. Can you talk a little bit about that, Nana?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, earlier on, I don't know if my timeline is exact or not, but at least I would say about 6 weeks ago, because Randy goes down once a week to talk to Corpus Christi police. And a lot of times Jeff and Ted join him, and then just recently they decided just to do it one at a time. But what I got frustrated about is that they told them a good 6 weeks ago they were waiting on these subpoenas to get back, and warrants, and we kept hearing that, but there was never any resolve to it until a friend of my daughter's here had said something, you know, about contacting the congressman in our area and also the one down there. And so when we did that, actually I didn't do it, it was my son here that did it. We're almost immediately, they started getting in the information that they needed. And so we kind of sat there for a good 4 weeks with nothing happening on those subpoenas and warrants. That's my understanding. I don't go down and speak with the police face to face, but that's just my understanding. And they are finally, you know, getting a little bit more information in.
And Jeff, it sounds like you were very instrumental in that, in trying to put a little pressure on the people being subpoenaed or the warrants. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. We contacted, Randy contacted, you know, Chip Roy and then the local
Michael Cloud.
the Michael Cloud, new ace, you know, the congressman in Corpus Christi, and they were all very, very willing to help and have relationships with law enforcement, and they did, you know, any outside pressure is helpful, or outside support, I should say. So yes, we did, you know, we're engaging anybody we can to help and help to assist them and put pressure on in these subpoenas and whatever we could do as a family. Yes.
You know, there's nothing worse than understanding the process. And that is literally once that AT&T clerk gets the request, they go in, they look up the account. Okay, you need a week or 2 weeks worth of records. They literally go into those records. It takes them about 10 minutes at the most. They print it off or send it off electronically, and that's it. And it's very frustrating. I know people in law enforcement, it's so important to make that contact with the person that is actually doing it to get their file moved to the top, because this isn't a property crime. This isn't a financial crime. This isn't a historical crime. This is a crime involving somebody who is missing and somebody's whose life could be in peril. I can't state it any more plain than that. And so it's always a frustrating process to literally get that clerk to move it to the top of the pile, because that's what it takes. And it takes a squeaky wheel. And I'm glad to hear that at least some motion is happening. And I also understand that, of course, once you get one set of returns showing phone traffic or showing text messaging or other sorts of messaging, then it leads you to something new. And then you have to subpoena them. So it's kind of can be a never ending, long domino process. And I know that's been frustrating. Nana, I'm sorry, Ted, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? Just, I know you haven't been in the thick of that piece, but what it's been like to not have any answers from law enforcement.
It's been very disheartening not to have the answers. It's been very upsetting and disheartening not to have Caleb back. And so we're looking for information that will lead us to him, will lead law enforcement to him in order to get the process moving to get him back home. So it's day by day, and you can't get him off your mind. You know, it's a constant day, and you're thinking about it. You need something to pull you away for a little while, but it always comes back. You know, what's the holdup? Why can't they find him? You know, we know for a fact that we have a God that knows where he is. We know for a fact that we have a God that can rescue him. We know that Caleb knows his God. We know that Caleb has God's word in his heart that he carries with him every day, and he has a hope knowing who he belongs to. And so we know that Caleb is in good hands with the God that he honors, with the God that he believes in, and through his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You know, we're hoping to get him back quick.
And I think it's so beautiful to listen to the faith you all have. And I know in discussions I've had with you all that your faith is what has been your strength to try to get through this process. But nevertheless, you all are human. And I can't imagine what it must be like to go through what you're going through. I want to talk a little bit about something that Assistant Chief Green told me. And, you know, obviously anything I said that I wouldn't repeat, I'm not repeating. But there was one thing that he said I could say. And that was really, he wanted to address, he asked me if I would send this message to all the cyber sleuths, the, you know, people in the true crime community that really do care about helping find Caleb. And what he had to say was this, was that they are getting to a point, law enforcement is getting to a point that they do have some direction on where they're looking and what they're looking at. And so they're not at a brick wall yet, but the minute they get to a brick wall, they are going to make a release of information when they think they're at the point that it's going to help the case. And they don't think that right now. They don't think that what they're sitting on and not sharing, it's going to be helpful to share right now. But he wanted to assure everyone in the community, everyone who cares about Caleb, everybody who seeks justice and worries and advocates for the missing, it's coming. If they hit a dead end, they're just not there yet. And I found that to be just such good words, because to me, that means two things. That means, one, law enforcement isn't at a dead end. They have particular leads they're following, and they're looking in a particular direction, and it's not exhausted yet. And only when it's exhausted are they going to come. And then they say they're going to come to open it up more, or open it up to the public. And I think that'll be great once that happens, but let's hope that they resolve it before then. Lastly, I just wanted to know if we could kind of go around. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. What it is meant to have him gone, and any message that you might want to send in case anybody that might be involved in this would be listening.
Just that, you have, the gem of our life, and we'll do anything in our power to get him back, whatever it takes, have mercy on him, and, he's all of our lives. So, we'll all do whatever it takes, whatever effort it takes to get him back. And so we'll, all of our supporters, you see all the support we have. So.
Andy?
I think that we are real people. We are not just this news story that people are following. We are this family that is missing their child, their grandchild, their niece, my brother, my best friend. This isn't something that is entertainment for anybody, and just as Jeff said, we will do anything to get him back.
Becky?
I would just say if there's people watching that have him, that he has a family that loves him, that wants him back, and that God will forgive you for anything you've done, and just return him back safely. And if Caleb was listening, I want him to know to stay strong, to call him verses that he knows, and to fight with everything he's got to get back.
Papa?
Yeah, I think the same thing. We don't know why he was taken. We don't know what reason that he would have been taken, because we don't know anything that he could have even been involved in or associated with. If somebody has been by mistake, it's not even feel like they've done anything. We pray that honeymoon, moving back, we just want him back. Like Andy said, like Jeff said, we only willing to do anything to getting back.
Janet?
Well, I love what Amy said, is we're real people. And even though we've gotten a lot of support, there's been some pretty awful things said. And it's my opinion that we are hurting at the deepest core. We lost a son earlier. He was 2 years old. We have resolve to that. We know what you're dealing with. We don't know what we're dealing with this. And it's just been agony for all of us. We sort of take turns. It doesn't all happen at once, but we are a very tight group. Since Caleb was in the first grade, he's lived within 10 minutes of us. We do a lot of our life together, and there's a huge hole in our family with him gone. And
Randy,
we-
oh, sorry, Janet.
I'm sorry. Oh, I wanted to say too, that if Caleb was listening to this, we love you. We want you back. And if you're not whole, we will get you there.
Randy?
For me, it's everything everybody said. If we could talk directly to whomever may have him, again, our faith in Jesus Christ is something that we, as hard as it is to pray for that individual or that group or whatever, where he is, we have to find it in our hearts to also pray for them, that they will have mercy, they will have the grace of God upon them. And that's what we're hoping for. And if Caleb's listening, come home. Fight
He wants to come home.
everything you can.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for talking about Caleb to all the people in the audience and all the people really across the U.S. that really care about this young man and know that he didn't just disappear. Something happened. Something happened. And everyone in the audience and everyone who hears this, please, please show his picture. Put it on your platforms, whether that's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Twitter, whatever. Please put Caleb's picture out there. You never know who might see something, who might know something. Please, his name, his story. This is one of these cases, and I know those on Twitter have noticed it. It went from, all over mainstream media and all over Twitter hemisphere, and now people barely talk about Caleb. They need to be talking about Caleb. We need to be talking about Caleb because someone knows what happened. Someone knows what happened here.
Well, I'd like to say something about the volunteers too. We have so many wonderful volunteers. I think we're up to probably close to 19,000 brochures or flyers put out, signs and magnets and, billboards. And again, the support that we've had is amazing. And I think, I want to thank everybody in Corpus Christi because it's pretty amazing. You can't go anywhere without somebody knowing something about, Caleb. And it's happening now, all over the state of Texas, all the way up to Amarillo and other areas. So we're very thankful, extremely thankful. And that's what we need. We need the public's help.
Such a gracious statement. You're always so gracious, Randy. You always sing the accolades of the volunteers, and the volunteers, from all accounts, from the word one, have done such an excellent job. And, let's keep doing our job out here on the airwaves of keeping his face and name. And if you live in the Corpus Christi area and want to help, please reach out to Randy. Please reach out to his family and see what you can help in terms of spreading flyers. Are there any search efforts anymore in any of the areas, Randy?
Only direct when we have a lead. Right now, there's not an official ground search going on. As we get leads in, whether it comes in from Facebook or the tip line, those are immediately definitely the CCPD reacts very fast, and they will include all their resources, Coast Guard, drones, everything they have to go look and try to find if there's a lead pointing to Caleb. What's the name of the Facebook page?
There's a Facebook page called Volunteers for Caleb Harris that you can follow, and the young lady that is in charge of it is extremely organized. She She's a student. She's going to be a teacher. So she's a girl after my own heart, and she is got flyers and locations where everything has been gone, all over Texas, all over the United States. And so if you are on Facebook and you look up Volunteers for Caleb Harris, you can find out what's going on there.
She's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
And a new friend for Andy.
I'm sorry, say that again, Randy?
New friend for Andy. They went and got their nails done.
That's great. Oh, that's great. One of our chats, and I do want to address a couple of questions from the people listening because they're very important. They think of so many things that we haven't thought of in tonight's discussion. One of them asked a question about an Apple Watch. Did he have an Apple Watch, and do you know what has been done concerning his Apple Watch?
Yes, he had a MacBook, an iPad, Apple Watch, and an iPhone. iPhone was never found. The MacBook was taken into forensics. The iPad and the iWatch were actually taken in and given to the Secret Service. They have more technology, probably the most advanced technology, to be able to crack into it, for better lack of words, and that was sent off to another state. And so they've been helping with the technology. But yes, there was an Apple Watch, and they do have that, and they've definitely been doing the forensics on it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that because the U.S. Marshals are involved. They have a great network for fugitive finding. That's one of the things they do, one of the initiatives they have. So it's great that they're involved. Secret Service, in talking to Assistant Green, had one specific thing they were able to help with, and that's just what you said. They sent it off to their lab in Miami and had the forensic analysis done on those two items, copied, mirrored, and sent back. I guess they were one of the only labs that existed to do that. And of course, the Bureau is handling the lion's share of all the digital forensics. So the Texas Rangers, for those who are wondering, they are also involved, offering up any assistance that are needed. Countless groups of divers and of searchers and volunteers, and the Texas Wildlife, I think, Commission also helped.
Texas Parks and Wildlife, Sheriff's Department, Coast Guard.
Yep. So this has been a huge effort. Every week, law enforcement meets with Randy. Every week, law enforcement, speaks to each other. And I know for a fact, I feel more confident than ever after talking to Chief Green that it's coming to a head one way or the other. Either the direction they're going is going to be fruitful with more answers, or they're going to unleash some information to the public that hopefully we'll all be able to assist with as best we can. Faces and names maybe of individuals that could have possibly last seen him. That's not anything Chief Green said. That's just me talking from a law enforcement perspective. Let me just check out a couple of these other questions. People are saying it's great you all had Apple devices because it's good technology. Everybody is really sending you all a lot of prayers.
Thank
and
you.
asking for God's blessings over you all. Just a lot of comments really reaching out and giving you their support. And I'm sure you'll be able to go on afterwards, family of Caleb, and read these comments for yourself. You have a lot of people that are behind this effort to find Caleb. So let's get his name back out there, his face, and let's find Caleb.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Actually, I've never done this before. No, I did it one other time, but it was offline, and one other time with an account that we always pray together. He always says the prayers because he's a preacher. I'm just going to say a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just ask that you help give this family continued strength to get through this time, continued peace, to try to find just peace as you can, day in and day out as you go through this struggle. And then also, Lord, if you could please give law enforcement the guidance, the intelligence, the strength they need to find Caleb and bring him back to this amazing family. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, not something I normally do, but I am a big believer. Everyone who follows me knows that. And we're praying for you.
Thank you so much.
All right, till next time. All right, everyone. We're signing off from Break the Case. I hope you all have an amazing evening. Thank you for being here. Please use your platforms to spread Caleb's face and name. And I pray he is found soon for this family. May justice be served.